It's a lot of hard work, okay? It's not easy to do. You have to be diligent. And if the level of work is intimidating or you don't want to do it, stop now and don't be an entrepreneur. Because the amount of work I'm asking you to do is minimal compared to what it will take to make your product or service successful. Whether that's through technology or competitive advantage or large amounts of capital or expertise or whatever, that team will figure it out. What's a good market problem? A good market problem has three characteristics. One is a high sense of urgency. Okay, I've got to fix it and I've got to fix it now. The second one is ubiquitous. There are many people with the problem. And the third thing is people are willing to pay. Okay? They are willing to pay to fix the problem. If you go in wanting to prove yourself right, you can do that. In this case, I don't want to prove that I'm right. I want an objective answer as to whether there's demand or not. So a series of standard business practice applied using an objective process. The other thing is, it takes 60 days, and if you're fortunate enough to have a development budget, you want to spend about 5% of your development budget. So those of you who are entrepreneurs and have no money, there's an answer. Hang on a second, let me finish this one first. So if you're spending $500,000 to develop your product, my point is spend 5%, $25,000, validating the market before you spend the other 95%. Okay? Because with a 5% spend, I can figure out in 60 days whether I should spend the other 95%. The alternative is spend 100% and take 6, 9, 12 months, whatever the development process is, to find out you've built something that nobody wants. For those of you who are in startups and don't have money, this is a classic example of sweat equity. Okay? Sweat equity is investing your time in lieu of your money. The 3 steps of validation, and then I think we're ready to take a coffee break. Let me talk you through these. The first one is ready. This is a process of quickly assessing, and when I say quickly, over the course of about 2 days of work, whether more time and effort should be devoted to your idea. Okay? So this is very useful on a couple of fronts. The first front would be, I've got a good day job and I don't want to quit it, and I want to figure out if my idea is any good. Okay? Ready is a great way, with a couple days work to assess that. The second way it's very useful, and I spent a lot of time with major corporations on this second way, is I've got 5 or 10 ideas. I'm not sure how to prioritize them. Mark, we're going to take a break in about 5. Does that work? Okay. I've got 5 or 10 ideas. I'm not sure how to prioritize them. How can I prioritize them? Okay, so what I would do is spend 2 days on each of the ideas, and I'll show you the framework. It's relatively straightforward. Then I would compare and contrast the results and figure out, okay, in my organization, this looks like it should be number 1, this one looks like number 2, and all using a quantitative approach. AIM is the real beefy part of the market validation process, okay? This is where we go in and we do what is known as primary research. And what you need to do in the AIM process is interview 100 people in your target market, okay? 100 people. And that's a significant number. Most of you are probably going, ugh, that's a lot of work. It is. Some of you are going, well, who's going to do that? You're going to do that. And the rest of you are going, well, why am I going to do that? Well, the reason you're going to do it is it's easier to do it now than it will be for your sales force once they're selling that actual product. Okay? So this is a leading indicator of what your sales and marketing efforts are going to be required to look like. And it's much, much easier to call somebody up and say, hey, I'm analyzing the market for portable music devices. Can I spend 20 minutes with you on the phone understanding understanding your views on music, you'll get a lot better response to that question than your salespeople will to, hey, I got a portable music device I want to sell you. Okay? It's easy at this stage. It's hard once everything's real. You need to do this. Okay? That's the most important thing, and we'll go through a lot on that.
Is there any significance to the number 100? Because as a sample size, it still seems pretty small to me.
Okay, great question. Is there a significance to the number 100 because as a sample size it seems pretty small? There is a significance to the number and the sample size is pretty small, but let me give you the significance. The first thing is I am trying to emphasize that this is not talking to 10 people or 20 people, okay? And in my experience, having done this many times, if you do 100, you're usually starting to get the same answer consistently, even out in the outliers, and it represents enough of a sample. The question about statistical significance, which is a good one, is, the statisticians will say if you have a potential market of 1 million people, you should talk to at least, they'll put it into a formula and come back and say you should talk to at least 2,300 of those people to really know what the million think. Nobody's in a position to do that much. Even a major corporation with all kinds of resources, even a Microsoft or a Google would never do that. It's just not practical. So it's a rule of thumb, the number 100. Okay? Many of you need to do more than 100. A few of you might have justification for doing less than 100. The main thing I want you to think of is it's a big number, requires a significant amount of effort, at least 60 days. And it makes for easy arithmetic. Thank you. That's very critical. Yes, sir.
When you say interview, do you really mean like calling up an interview, or would something like a survey just suffice to be a purpose?
Good question. I mean calling up and interviewing. Okay, now, you can also use electronic surveys, and there are times and places to do that, but they don't count towards the 100. Okay? You use those when you get to more consumer-oriented products where you need a broader sample size, and I'll give you examples of that when we go through the details. And by complete interview, it means on the phone or in person. Practical experiences, and I'll explain why in a second, but practical experience has shown phone is the most cost-effective way to do that. If we're sitting here in Auckland validating across the entire country, we might be able to get a small percentage of people to show up at a coffee shop in Auckland so we could validate, but it's time-consuming, right? Versus sitting on the phone, literally cold calling, you're going to get a lot more work done a lot quicker. The reason I want it done in person and not electronically is you hear the oohs and ahs, the oh no's, oh this is great, oh this is terrible. You get this sort of ability to chase things down and react in real time to what people have to say. And I'll give you some examples of how this has worked effectively in the past. But if you do that electronically, you never hear it, you never feel it. And also, if you're part of the company and doing this work, you really begin to relate to what the problems are. Because if you do 100 interviews and you got 5 people doing them, everyone's talked to 10 or 20 people, I would argue none of you have talked to 10 or 20 of your target audience in this manner yet, okay? If you did, you'd have so much more understanding of what the company was about and what the problem was about, and that's what I'm trying to do. I'm really trying to get inside that potential user's head and understand what they like and dislike. And as a great example, a classic question is, when doing primary interviews, and again, we'll go into detail on this, but a great example is you find somebody that says they have the problem you solve, and they're using your competitor's product. That is a gold mine of information. Okay? I haven't told them who I am. I'm just analyzing the market. I find somebody who's got a competitor's product. Couple questions I always ask them. Number 1, what are your 3 favorite things about that competitor's product? Okay? Number 2, what are your 3 least favorite things about your competitor's product? And usually you'll find the customer perception of your competitor's product is much different than the positioning that competitor has on their website.